and in East Africa in general, looking at the sectors that are currently on demand and the issues that require debate in terms of business, and giving more attention especially to the vulnerable groups that are usually sidelined when it comes to discussions that are usually locked in the boardrooms. And remember to follow us on Twitter. That is at Smart24TV. If you have any feedback on the show, you can be able to give us that feedback through our Twitter handle by following us on Twitter at Smart24TV, and also my personal handle at Anthony Sebale. You can also catch us live on our YouTube live stream at Smart24TV, and get to comment in the comment section. And you can also catch us live on GoTV and DSTV channel 394 and 372 respectively, and get the latest on what's trending in the world of business. We are still in the heat of Women's Day, Women's Week, Women's Month, you can name it. And our focus today is still women. We are still looking at what women actually have in terms of contribution to business, but also what is currently being one of the things that are holding them back in terms of career positions. What are some of the things that are specific for women when it comes to the challenges that people face in the working environment? What are some of the challenges that women face, and how can we address them? The International Women's Day 2023 in Uganda was celebrated on Wednesday, and this was under a theme called Digital. In other words, the innovation and technology was at the center stage of the celebrations for gender equality. And when you look at this headline, it's really just bringing out one of the things that many of the women have actually not been involved in, but there are quite a number of other things outside just the digital transformation and the innovation and technology that currently are putting women at a disadvantage when it comes to career, when it comes to employability, and when it comes to work generally, both in the informal and the formal sector. Now, to help me discuss this one is none other than the president of the Public Relations Association of Uganda, newly elected, Miss Wamala Tina. She's the current president of the Public Relations Association of Uganda. This is a body that was established in 1976 and is the umbrella of all the private and public PR professionals, communication specialists, brand managers, mass communication, and other related disciplines here in Uganda. It is affiliated to other regional bodies in East Africa, and these include the East African Public Relations Association, also the Africa Public Relations Association, and at the international level, the International Public Relations Association. So it's a very great moment to have the president of the association here. You're most welcome, Miss Wamala.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you for having me here. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. I'm very excited about what you're doing, and given the fact that you're new in the office, first tell us about the experience. How has it been so far for you in the past 2 weeks?
So I've been a member of the Public Relations Association of Uganda for over 10 years now. And as a member, it's an industry that I'm passionate about. It's an industry that I love. And I served in the previous executive as vice president. And having sat in the vice president's seat, I saw a lot of changes that were very exciting for the association, and I wanted to contribute and say, as a president, let me lead from the front. Let me come up with innovations and initiatives that will change our association, that will change the industry, that will build us and grow us to greater heights. And so I took up the challenge, and I'm so grateful that I was elected president, and I'm now 2 years in, or rather 2 weeks in, as president of the association.
Wow.
And so far so good. We're coming up with strategies on how we're going to lead the association for the next 2 years of our term.
Tell us about the Public Relations Association of Uganda. 1976 is not that close, at least as far as my age and the age of the most of the people that are probably watching.
Yeah.
What are the objectives, and why was this association put in place?
So the association is 47 years old. Like you said, that is no mean feat. The 47-year-old is you'd say almost in the middle of their life, so to say, having accomplished and jumped a couple of hoops, and having been around for 47 years shows that there is longevity in the industry. It shows that there is growth in the industry. It shows that there is interest in the industry. Otherwise, the association wouldn't be around 47 years later. So like you said in your intro, our association convenes all private and public relations experts, specialists in the country, communicators, spokespersons, whether private or public. We convene and bring them together. And our core mandate is to advance PR and communications excellence in Uganda. Our objective is to ensure that as an industry we thrive, as an industry we grow, as an industry we contribute to effective communication for the growth of our organizations that we represent, but also overall for the agenda of Uganda, to also be visible, to be audible, and to make sure that we have a difference, or we contribute to the difference, positive difference for the country.
When you talk about public relations, you know, it's something that currently is, we probably people misconceive, because we are in an era where social media is very is at the helm of, you know, publicizing everything.
True.
And public relations is to do with the image, if I'm not mistaken,
Correct.
of the company outside.
Correct.
And what people are seeing outside. Isn't it facing a very hard time at the moment, looking at the current trends, especially in social media publications, where things go viral just in seconds? And as a PR, I think your role is to see that all the bad stuff goes out at a very less speed as possible, right?
Correct.
And currently we are in that social
Digital
media
era, yeah.
digital era, and isn't it giving you a very hard time, especially people dealing in the PR sector right now?
So you're right about a sort of identity crisis or misrepresentation or misinterpretation of public relations, but ultimately we are the link between our organization and the public, or between our organization and key stakeholders. We disseminate information on behalf of our organization that is positive, that is image building, that is reputational building, that will ensure that crises are mitigated, some of which and often of which, like you said, nowadays emanate from social media. So social media is a channel that us as public relations people embrace and should embrace, because it's a free channel, number one, with the exception of having to need internet data and whatnot, and smartphones and the like. It's a free channel upon which you can disseminate your communication, create awareness, create interest, ignite debates, and also mitigate crises should they happen on that space. It has created a little bit of a monster in the sense that now almost everyone is an influencer, almost everyone can communicate on your behalf. Where there are lots of activists nowadays that pick up their phone, that pick up their tablets, iPads, you name it, and use that medium to vent. But the good thing is, as PR experts, we know what is required of us, and what is required of us is to be proactive. We are not a reactive entity that waits for bad news to hit, or that should wait for bad news to hit. We proactively communicate with our audiences, with our customers. I'm sure you've seen numerous times, Omeme is very good at sending out these notifications. There will be a power cut in these areas and these areas because of the upgrade, you name it, you name it. Same thing with National Water. They do a lot of those notifications so that as customers, you're aware that for a couple of hours, you will be you will not have the services because of upgrades, service upgrades, and you name it. And that way, it keeps you cool as a customer. You don't end up now going online and venting about the inefficiencies of those organizations. So we use those channels proactively to ensure that we inform our customers in time should a crisis arise. God forbid if the crisis happens and now we need to react. It's the same channel we'll then use to ensure that we put our message out there. Because we are the point of authority. We are the subject matter expert when it comes to our organization, its policies, its generally its activities. So oftentimes you will find that people also want to hear from the authority, not just from the people who are spreading the rumors, the ones who are spreading the bad news. They also want to hear from us, who are the subject matter experts, on our position, on why we've chosen that direction. So the same channel that the crisis emanated from is also the same channel we'll use to put our message across, apologize, provide a solution to the issue, and through that same means, we ensure that we get our customers back on our side. So it's a way of us also communicating and also managing the reactions we're getting from different customers. So yes, social media has been an interesting platform over the last couple of years. We have embraced it fully. It has challenged us as public relations people, but at the same time, it has also given us avenues to communicate proactively, to get external voices to also speak on our behalf, to get loyalists who believe in our products, in our services, in our organizations, to say, actually, their services have been brilliant for the last couple of years. Maybe just making one mistake doesn't warrant you to think that they're an inefficient organization. So through the very same platforms, we find avenues upon which to manage crises, to raise awareness, to raise interest, and to ensure that we maintain the image, the positive image that we want for our organizations.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. Now, getting back to the discussion tonight, we're looking at the career positioning for women. How can you define positioning women in terms of career and opportunities in the current digital era? What is positioning when it comes to, especially the gender, women gender, when it comes to positioning? How could you define it?
So first and foremost, I believe in equality and equity. The two are very different. Equality means we're all represented, equally represented, regardless of whichever space, of whichever organization, or whichever dimension we're trying to represent. Equity means that just because you're a man and I'm a woman, you get paid more than I'm paid, yet we do the same job. So I believe in the two, because that is one of the ways in which we're going to transform the world and transform economies, when we're both treated equally, fairly, and transparently. So career positioning for women is ensuring, one, that we're given the platform, or we're given opportunities, equal opportunities to thrive, to work, to grow within an organization. So you don't want to find a situation where a woman is denied a job just because she's a woman. It should be based on the fact that equality and equity are important for the organization to grow within its space and to ensure that it meets the SDGs that we are all striving to meet in terms of gender equality. So the equality and equity are extremely important to ensure that women are given the same and equal opportunities as men. And even within those opportunities they are given, are they rewarded adequately? Are they incentivized adequately? Are they treated fairly? And are there no gender gaps or divisions just because of the gender in which they find themselves in? So all those speak to career positioning. So personally, I believe that career positioning for women is equal opportunity for a woman to ensure that they basically pursue any career that they want, regardless of the career being defined or described or historically thought of predominantly male dominated or the other way around. The same applies for men. There is no reason why men cannot go for careers that were previously defined as female dominated careers. It should be an equal platform for you to follow your passion, to follow something that interests you, to follow something that you're good at, regardless of your gender. Gender should not be a barrier. It should actually be the driving force to you going to apply for any job, any career that you want for. It should actually be the push that takes you to the next level. So that's how I define career positioning. It's about pursuing whatever career, regardless of your gender, having the equal opportunities, having equal ground to thrive, to grow, to develop, and ensuring that there's equity in terms of reward, in terms of growth, promotions, whether you're a man or a woman.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. In the recent past, there's been a discussion on the other side of the gender equality coin. That is what you just mentioned, the aspect of men now currently getting engaged in female ruled spaces. And ordinarily, some jobs and businesses have been stereotyped for women.
True.
For example, social services, childcare, maybe kitchen work, cosmetology.
Yes.
And it's changing. It's changing. It looks like men are invading this space. Is it a threat? Is it a healthy competition for women as well? Or actually everyone should stay in their lane?
It's a healthy competition. It's what the world needs. We have been bombarded by gender stereotypes, which unfortunately began right from the family setup, where your parents could have said that, oh no, the kitchen is for girls, for example, or boys are the ones that go to the garden and dig. Those are gender stereotypes. So those cultural settings, those family settings we grow up in, have somewhat brainwashed us and affected us to think that X is for women, Y is for men. Yet it's not the case, because the kind of life and world we're living in, the digital world that you spoke of in your intro, is taking us and moving us at such a fast pace that no one can afford to be left behind. No one can afford to say, I don't know how to do this, or I can't do this because I'm a woman or because I'm a man. We should all be allowed to do whatever we can and whatever we should. Because right now, with the fast-paced world that we're living in, there is a requirement for us to basically contribute economically, contribute socially, contribute regardless of our gender. Gender divides shouldn't be due to, basically the economic opportunities we get shouldn't be as a result of gender stereotypes. Actually, we should break the gender stereotypes and pursue the things that we want, so that we basically contribute to the economic development of our country. So gender stereotypes, the cultural backgrounds that we come from, the family setups that we come from, have a very big role to play in how we think, in the opportunities we get, in our drive and our attitudes. But with the way things are moving at a really fast pace, we can no longer afford to be driven by gender stereotypes anymore.
Talking about our culture, as especially the African culture, we bring up girls in a society where they're looked at as sometimes they're objectified as just people to bring up money, maybe in bride price or something like that. And the self-esteem for our women, our young girls especially, becomes very low sometimes. Yes, we've had a few exceptions where women have actually broken those barriers and they have had successful careers and they're very inspiring. For example, could be you could be one of those women who have actually been able to break those barriers. But 90% of women still face those cultural setbacks, especially in the family setting. What can you tell the women out there who are currently in this society, the setting where people view them as nothing less than a housewife, nothing less than someone who stays in the kitchen? We just saw this in the lockdown, which was very evident that women who had even started businesses lost businesses because they had now to stay home longer and take care of the children and take care of the men, and they were not even recognized for that. Right? So how can women best position themselves and advance in leadership and advance in career amidst the culture that is so against what they're actually pursuing?
So you mentioned a very big point, and actually the biggest elephant in the room is our cultural background, and even religion to a certain extent can have a role to play in gender, in career advancement for women. And you find that those aspects influence or determine who you will be or what you will be in the future. However, there should be no deterrent in the 21st century for a woman, regardless of status, regardless of age, to pursue their dreams. And to your point and to your question, there were issues during lockdown that came to the fore. One of which is we were awoken to the fact that we were living in a free world where you were able to go to the market and sell, you were able to vend, you were able to do whatever you've been doing to make that money, to make ends meet, to take care of your children, of your family. and then all of a sudden you were put in a two-year lockdown, which was quite troubling and traumatic. So I feel that women need to empower themselves. That's the first point. We need to be each other's allies, first off, whereby by forming networks with fellow inspirational women who are in the same space you are, who are in the same sector, you get to learn, you get to understand, you get to benchmark the successes in the industry, you get to hear their challenges, and based off that, you get to improve as a woman who is growing in that space. So networks are the first and most important things in how women can advance in their career. The second is on mentorship. I'm sure all of us have people we've looked up to as we're growing up, and even in our lives now. We look at people and we admire them for who they are, what they do, and the impact they're making in the world. And again, if you have a mentor who you're regularly seeking guidance from, seeking some kind of mentorship from in terms of like how to go about the sector that you're in, that person can inspire you to be a better version of yourself in your career. There are also, leadership is something that a lot of women frown upon for some reason, which is unfortunate. And you can never know your full potential unless you put yourself in a position of leadership, in a position of responsibility. Because leadership to me is responsibility. It's not about power, it's about responsibility. And I feel that women do not take up enough leadership positions. They frown upon them either out of fear of what their husbands or partners will think and say. They fear that they might not be efficient wives at home because now they're successful in their careers. But yet, at the same time, when you're successful and productive on that end, it will also have a ripple effect in your home as well, because you will feel proud of your contribution economically, proud of your contribution in the country, and that will also seep through in terms of like what you're doing at home and the contribution you're making at home. So leadership positions are something women should take up very, very, very strongly. It's not something to be afraid of. It's something that they should take up wholeheartedly, headstrong. I also think skills development is something that women shouldn't take lightly. We need to continually learn. They say there's something new to learn every single day. You need to advance. You need to equip yourself with the knowledge, with the skills, with the expertise. I mean, if you are wanting, or if you feel like you lack certain skills, whether in leadership or in financial literacy, take up courses to ensure that you gain those skills and knowledge so that you become better at that particular area where you feel like you're struggling. So continual development, education, continually grow yourself. And then also you need to surround yourself with men who want to see women thrive, who want to see women emancipated, who want to see men, I feel, are our allies, or should be our allies in this gender equality movement that we're in, that we've been on for the last couple of years.
But they're threatened. There's that fear they have, especially us, the traditional African men. When you talk about empowering the girl child, one of the things that comes up is a fear that if a woman, for example, earns more than me, how am I going to be the man in the home? How am I going to be able to converse with my fellow men, knowing that my wife is a jury in court and me, I'm a taxi driver? So what should they do about that fear, as well?
So I think one is sensitization. I think it's a lot of awareness is required to tell men that your home, the family setup can be more progressive, more transformative, more successful if the two of you have something to put on the table, if the two of you have monies to put on the table. There's a lot of awareness in terms of also remembering that gender roles don't necessarily change just because your wife earns more or less than you. The gender roles still remain. Men need to also realize that when a woman is educated, a country thrives, because you'll find that women being nurturers, women being the caregivers, they insist and they push for their children to get the same kind of opportunities in life. So whether they have daughters or sons, they're going to make sure that those children are just as successful as they were, as opposed to a woman who is not as literate or as successful, because you want to find an opportunity where the next generations or future generations are more successful than even you were in your life. So it's very important to continually sensitize the men that as a force for good, as allies in this gender equality movement, more can be achieved, more can be accomplished if they are with us in this journey of gender equality and not against us. Because your husband, your partner, your brother, your father can deter you from being the next president, for the next prime minister, the next vice president, you name it. All because they didn't give you the equal opportunities to discover your talent, discover yourself, to go to school, to thrive within the school setup, to do your masters, and you name it. Though they can be barriers, but now if they are enforcers and supporters of that, then they'll be proud to say that I actually was part of her career journey and career growth. So being allies is all about sensitization for the men to realize that more can be achieved when they're with us, not against us.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Wamala. We're going to take a very quick breather, and when we return, we talk more about empowerment. Women have to be empowered, like she mentioned, but how are we going to empower our women, especially in the work setup? We also have challenges that do affect women at workplaces, and one of them that recently has gained traction is the sexual harassment. And this is a talk that hasn't been fully addressed, or probably cannot be fully addressed, if we don't change some of the inherent cultures in our organizations, in our families, of the way we handle women and how we should be able to handle women in our society. And finally, we want to also talk about personal branding for women. How can you as a woman brand yourself so you can demand more from others? Because the personal brand also has to do a lot with what you're going to receive in return. My name is Anthony. This is The Point, and you're watching Smart 24 TV. We drive your business.
Smart 24, driving business.
My name is Kaheru Bright Bernard, a sales and marketing consultant with Bukona Agro Processors. Bukona Agro Processors is a local manufacturer of green energy, specifically ethanol, for clean cooking. The factory was established in 2013. Factory work started by 2019, and by 2020 we got support from government through Uganda Development Corporation to manufacture, further improve our production, manufacture stoves that would be used, that would use ethanol for clean cooking. So with that fuel, we're producing fuel, green fuel, with the bio stoves for clean cooking. And we are in a partnership with GLU Diocese that has about 9,000 local farmers producing cassava, which is a bio, which is a raw material for production of ethanol. And we also use maize and grain, specifically sorghum, for production of the fuel. And currently we are exporting to Kenya. We have a partnership with Vivo Energy that supplies Cocoa Networks, a distributor of clean cooking solutions within Nairobi, Kisumu, Nakuru, and other parts of Kenya. We're also distributing within the local market in Uganda But with, of course, the production of biostoves, we hope we shall also improve our distribution network within Uganda to develop the culture of clean cooking using ethanol made from cassava that is locally produced here. And we hope that is going to support sustainable development goals, specifically SDG 13, 7, and 3, since our effort is to reduce the use of charcoal that has seen a lot of forests cut down, that has seen a lot of Mother Nature being lost, and most importantly, carbon emissions that are being emitted into the sky, causing a lot of green energy issues here and there. So we hope with as we scale up further with support from government, specifically Uganda Development Corporation, we shall be in position to achieve these objectives, develop that culture of clean cooking, and have people consume more of that food. And within our community, we have really had a lot of impact, created a lot of jobs for the local farmers, about 9,000 farmers under the Archdiocese of Gulu Catholic Church. And of course, the local people within Nyoya, within Gulu, and the surrounding areas have gotten employment. We're employing close to 200 people on a daily basis as temporary and permanent staff. And that has really had a lot of impact. And we are hopeful that as we scale up this production process within the local industry, energy, specifically the energy sector, we shall change lives and we shall improve how we consume, how we cook, how we ensure we are consuming our environment.